So hello everyone. I'm back with a short video. This is virtually the last building block for the new online lesson, and it's late in the day, so I hope to do this in one take. It's a very simple procedure really. What I wanted to show to you is how to create a lesson, which is the next thing you need to do in your project. So I'm logged in my Moodle account. And you can see down here there is a course called IBIS-IBMAN IBIS Projects. This is the course which I would like you to join, because this is where you will put your own lessons. I'm going to go to this course, and you can see that your team topics and team names have already been added to the course. And what I will do is now create a simple lesson which you can look at later on to figure out how to do it yourself. So the very first thing to do, you remember this from our Moodle practice, is that you click on the editing button up here on the right hand side, turn editing on. Editing turns on, and now you can, in any of these topics, you can add an activity or resource. So I'm going to add a lesson. You click on lesson. You can also read this text and inform yourself what's possible. If you click on more help, you will get to the complete Moodle documentation on the lesson, which is interesting, but you don't really need it for this purpose. So I'm going to click add, and I'm immediately led to the settings screen for adding a new lesson. Now, the basic principle with all learning management, all content management systems really is that unless you know what you're doing, do not change the settings. However, there are some things which you need to enter, the ones with the little red star. So we need to give this lesson a name. Let's call it a example lesson. It's a good idea to do that. This is a short example lesson for the IBIS course. And we click the description on the course page. Now, I can close this general tab and look at the other tabs. There's very little that I need to change here for a standard lesson, really. I'm going to look at all of these just in turn to show you what needs to be done if you want to do it. First one, there's the appearance. If you want to give the students a progress bar, and whenever you don't know what the meaning of any of these positions is, all you do is click on the little question mark and you will get an explanation. So if you want a progress bar, which I think is a good idea, you click yes. If you have added small exercises to your lesson and you want to give people an opportunity to score within the lesson, which I also think is a good idea, then you say yes, so people can get their score. This is a table of contents. So if your lesson has more than, let's say, 3 or 4 pages in it, then you should probably think about adding a table of contents. So all of these I pick yes. Now the rest of these I don't need to change unless I have next activities. So really only the top 3 positions are relevant. I'm going to close this appearance menu again. Go to availability. You don't need to change anything here. This is really only if you want to time a lesson like I'm doing it, give people a cutoff date after which they won't be able to work on the lesson any longer. So I'm going to leave this as it is. I'm going to look at flow control. This is the control of the pages in the lesson itself. And this is also advisable to not change at all. If you have questions, you might think about changing this to yes, so that students can try the questions again, makes it a little less hard. If you want to give students the opportunity to go back and forth in the lesson, you say yes here too. So this is now becoming a very simple lesson, and you can change the number of attempts to 10. So now if there's a question, they can go and have 10 attempts at getting a right answer. Everything else, we just leave it as it is. And you may not want to give a grade. If you do give a grade, then you should leave it as at point grade and adjust the maximum number of points, which I leave to you. This really depends on what kind of quiz questions you put in the lesson, if any at all. So I'm going to leave this as it is. Common module settings is only show or hide. This is of no relevance either. And restricting access is only relevant if you want to couple the lesson with any other objects, any other modules. For example, if in this course you had a quiz and you wanted to allow the student to enter the lesson only after the quiz has been completed, then you could add this here as a restriction. This would be for example, a grade for a particular thing or a date or anything like that. But this is complicated, so I say stay away from it. Now, the very last one I suggest you do something about. This is the completion tracking. This is a control issue, which gives you some information about the use of the lesson. So there's 3 different positions. You can either not indicate activity completion, you can let the students manually mark the activity as completed, or you can show the activity as complete when conditions are met. We're interested in the last one. The middle one just means that there is a little gray checking box for the student to check off the activity whenever they feel like. And this is the setting when the system automatically checks if a condition has been fulfilled or not. For example, we would like for the student to view this activity, so open it at all. If there are quiz questions, we would like the student to receive a grade. Up here in grade, we have specified how many points that relates to. And so, yes. And also, we would like for the student to look really at every page of the lesson. And lastly, let's say we have tested the lesson and we would like the student not to just skip through it, but spend at least 10 minutes on the lesson itself. These other settings to influence completion tracking. So once all these conditions are fulfilled, the students will get a nod. The system will say, yes, student has completed the lesson. And then we can, for example, give him a badge. This is only for information. So for example, I would like for this to be completed, let's say by the 29th of May, which will not influence the logic. It's only these top positions which will change the completion of a lesson. So we're done. And just to review, we looked at general, we gave a name, that's all here. We changed the appearance, progress bar, display ongoing score, and display menu. We looked at grade, but we really only opened activity completion and set that. So that's it. And now we can save and display the lesson. So if we do that, we get to the lesson itself, and surprise, surprise, the lesson is empty. We have no content here yet. What we would like to do here is you can work in the collapsed or the expanded menu. We work in the collapsed menu. That's all we need. And what we want to do is add content pages. The other 2 things, importing questions, adding a cluster, adding a question page, we will get to. But first of all, we want to start with a simple start page. So we're going to do that. Click on add a content page. A new menu opens, which fortunately looks much shorter than the other menu. I'm going to make it a little larger. And just so you can see better. And this is now the menu for the first page, for the first content page of the lesson. So let's call this start page. Let's say in this lesson, you will learn how to create a lesson. And then you may want to add a picture or add some more text or add a video or anything like that. So in this case, I just want to drop a picture here, which I have already created. So I'm going to see if I can find any picture that's relevant. Let's just take this picture. Doesn't really matter in this case. Now, when you add pictures, anything, especially from the internet, the standard license, which is prepared for you here, is public domain, which means that you can do with this picture, this image, or this movie, whatever you like. Remember from the Moodle practice, what you must do before you put any media content in a lesson or anywhere in our Moodle is you must convince yourself that the copyright attached to the medium is actually public domain. Otherwise, you have some other possibilities. For example, in Wikimedia Commons or also on Google, many images have a Creative Commons license, in which case you have to attach the right license. If you made the image yourself, you can also pick all rights reserved, in which case the copyright is yours. Let's leave it as public domain because this actually is a public domain image, which I got from a server. I'm going to just add this without making any changes. And at the bottom, I'll say image source openart.org. And this is actually domain. I don't need to specify this here, but it's a to do that. Better would be to link this entire line to the source of the clip art. Okay, so now we have a page. What we don't have is a pointer to the next page. That's the only other thing you need to do here. Give a title, put in some content, and lastly, provide a pointer. Now the pointer in this case is, because it's the first page, only to the next page. So we're going to enter next page for the jump point, and we write here next page, and everything else we can ignore. We save the page, and this brings us back to the table of contents. So now we see the example lesson has a first page. It's called start page. It has content in it, and it jumps to the next page. Let's do a preview. We can do a preview up here in the preview tab, or we can do a preview down here, this little spyglass. So let's take this one, and this should bring up the new page. So this is more or less how the page would look for an online learner. At the bottom, it tells you will not see the progress bar because you can edit this lesson. So this is still an editor view, but you see here the result of us putting the jumping point in, namely this goes to the next page. Now there is no next page, so if we click this, we will actually get to the end of the lesson by default. So we want to add a few more pages for this demonstration, so I'm going to go back to edit. We come back to the edit screen, the collapsed edit screen, and let's add another page. Let's add another content page. Let's call it, this is the second page. And let's say this content is just as exciting as on the first page. Oh. Now let's add a video. I haven't done this yet. Let's go to YouTube in another tab. And let me just pick a quick video which I have created. Let's take the video that I've just made for another lesson. I'm taking the URL from that video, and I can now put the URL here straight into the lesson if I want, or I can take the embed text, which is also simply copied from YouTube, and I put that in the HTML editor. So in this editor, which every page in Moodle has, there is a little sign here for HTML, edit HTML source. If I click that, I can now put the text I copied from YouTube in here. Anywhere on the page will do. And when I do that, you can see that the video is immediately inserted. Now what we need to do here is the jumping point from the last page, previous page, comes from the previous page, and the second button at the bottom is next page. So the next page. Okay. So we gave a title. We added some content, and we specified the button to go back and the button to go forward. Save the page. And as you can see in the editor, we have two pages, start page and second page. Let's do a preview, and this time let's go a preview from the very beginning. Now this is our first page. It has one button called next page. I click next page, and you see the second page with our film, which we can run straight from here. So we can start running the video right here, which we don't want to do. So let's add one more page of a different type. So we go again next page, which will bring us back to the final page, which doesn't exist yet. We click on edit. We go to the table of contents of our lesson, and we add another page as a question page. Let's add a very simple question, just a true false. There's different types here: essay, matching, multi-choice, numerical, short answer, and true false. True false is the simplest. We're going to click on add a question page, and now let's say this is a question page. Here you can actually just ask the question. For example, can you define quiz questions formulated as a true false answer? In a Moodle lesson, you can define a quiz question true or false. Well, since we're doing this right now, we know the answer is true. So we could write here, yes, you can. And we don't need to add a response. We only have to add here something like, yes, you can, well done, the answer to true. You could also call it true. And yes, you can. And here we can write, this is the correct answer score. This is the difference between these two screens. The correct answer score here is 1. So we get 1 point. We could also give 10 points or 50 points. Let's give 50 points because we only have 2 questions. And when the correct answer is given, we will go to the next page, which means the question is done. We could also enter a response here, but the answer is the only thing we must do because of the red star, as you see. Now, the wrong response is no, you can't, not at all. And the wrong answer will go back to this page. It will do this, if you remember, 10 times, if you have 10 attempts, and afterwards there will be no chance to do it again. And the wrong answer score is 0. Now I save the page, and I'm sure you're dying to know how it looks like, but you remember this from the other lesson. I go here to the preview button just for the question. And here's the question. In a Moodle lesson, you can define a quiz question. True, yes, you can, or no, you can, not at all. If I submit this without giving an answer, I'm told 1 or more questions have no answer given. Please go back and submit an answer. So I go back. If I give the wrong answer, no, you cannot define quiz questions, the answer is wrong. That's the wrong answer. I'd like to try again. And if I say true, yes, you can, I submit this, and now I'm getting to the end page. And you see on the left-hand side, this is the setting we added, the table of contents. The quiz question is not listed here. So we could also add a last page here, but I think this is enough. And I think you got it. So there's different parts here. The example lesson. We're going to go back to the main page where you see the lesson itself. And you also can see that I completed the lesson. So this little, I'm going to show it a little more clearly. This little checkbox has been filled. It's a dashed line checkbox, which means that the system checks it. And by completing the lesson, I have done this. So if I want to check further how it looks for students, I can also switch the role up here in administration to student. And if I do that, I will see no more ability to edit anything, and I can just go to the lesson, which is not blocked by anything, and start it. And you can see down here, because I already did it, that I've already completed some of the lesson. The first page, the second page with the movie, which I can watch, and my last page with the quiz, which I will complete. And now I've completed 100% of the lesson and got 50 points out of 50 points. So that's it. I can review the lesson. So just going back to it, come back to the start page. I can freely move within the lesson, and actually I can't because I am in the wrong role. So I need to go back to my normal role. Okay, so I hope this helps you, and good luck with that.